Hello, and welcome to Holy Week, Day 5 of our devotions. Today I am going to look at Jesus' last day on earth as seen through Matthew 27, focusing on the crucifixion of Jesus. And starting in verse 46 says, "From noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness came over the whole land. And about 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, 'My God, why have you abandoned me?'" Now, the first symbolic part of this was at 3 o'clock every afternoon. The tradition was that the priest would have gathered in the temple for the afternoon sacrifice, symbolic of Jesus's being the ultimate sacrifice at that time. Jesus' quote of my God, why have you abandoned me?" is him reading Psalm 22:1. And we see it as a way of maybe him crying out in unbelief or confusion or despair. He was just crying out in ultimate pain. He knew it was going to happen. He had said multiple times to his disciple, he told them that he was going to die on a cross for our sins, but that he was going to come back. He had said that previously in Matthew 17. He was confident on that. But him crying out was a cry of physical anguish, physical agony, spiritual anguish. And his quote further goes on from Psalm 22, 14 and 16, kind of totally captures the anguish that he was going to. Psalm says, "I was poured out like water, and all my bones are disjointed. My heart is like wax, melting within me. My strength is dried up like baked clay. My tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth. You put me into the dust of death, for dogs have surrounded me. A gang of evildoers has closed in on me. They pierced my hands and feet." So he was fully aware of that and sharing that. His physical anguish was real, intense, and he was all alone. He had been there. He knew that God was going to save him, but he was taking on that pain for us. He hadn't sinned. It was for the sin of humanity. And he still, even though he said, "Why have you abandoned me?" he knew God's presence was real. The judgment was towards sin of mankind, not on him himself. Paul says in 2 Corinthians 5:21, "He made the one who did not know sin to be sin for us, so that we might become the righteousness." Jesus experienced the separation that we as sinners deserve, so that we might receive reconciliation. That is the effect of the cross for all who trust in Jesus. Before the cross, we were cast out of God's presence. Because of the cross, we are now invited into God's presence. The barrier separating God was ripped away, just as it says in verse 51, that when he cried out and gave up his spirit, suddenly the curtain of the sanctuary was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth quaked and the rocks were split. In that temple where the priests were gathering, it tore from the top, symbolizing that God was the one who had ripped it away. So the cross is so significant. It was much more than a man naked on a wooden post. It was holy God of the universe giving his son to die for us, as we know from John 3:16. We have hope because we know how the story continues. We're thankful for the grace and salvation that we have through Jesus, that he was able to suffer like we could never imagine. I hope that you're able to spend some time in the Word and pray through the next few days as we celebrate on Easter that great resurrection of Jesus.